Wake Up with Jim and Sab is exclusively on Spotify.
And if you want to start your own podcast, you can check out anchor.fm.
If you love the pod and you want to support us, make sure you follow us on Spotify. Also, you can tag us on Instagram and Twitter at Wake Up with Jim and Sab. I wanted to ask, like, you've interviewed a ton of people and you are at the front line of all these historical events in
Akala ko
in
sabihin
our-
mo assholes.
That's true.
Pwede yun
also.
sa podcast. Pwede yun.
That's
Pwede yun.
true. I wanted to ask, like, do you think prior? I know that right now you feel like you have a renewed sense of spirituality, and but do you think that there was ever a time that your hope in humanity and your hope in the betterment of this country was being diminished?
That's a great question. I think I never lost hope in humanity, but I do feel when I was so busy. There was a time in my life I was doing Head Start. That's a political show, 8 to 9 in the morning live. I was doing a radio show, 4:30 p.m. live. Then I was doing Bandila, the late night newscast would come in 11:30 live. And I did that for roughly 11 years. So I would sleep 1 a.m., wake up 5:30. So sometimes when you just are trying to survive, really, just get through the day, you're unable to think of things like this, right? It's you're unable to feel inspired or cynical. It's like it takes too much energy if you're tired, right? But then I do have some fears with, I think, where our country is going. I won't lie. This doesn't have to do with any political party, but I do think that, the economy is not doing too well, but of course COVID is a big factor to that, but also the culture we have in the Philippines with each other. We're so polarized that we've been divided into colors. Either you're yellow, red, or you're this and that. And the polarization, I think, doesn't help us. Number two is, I also, I feel sad with the hate culture in social media. I feel YouTube and podcasts and Facebook should be used more for enrichment. Entertainment, yes, I agree, but enrichment. And yet, when you go to several platforms, there's just so much hate that goes on, right? When you talk about registering, for example, right, Saab?
Yes.
I had Saab on our Kumu show, and the Facebook comments on the side were people fighting with each other.
I'm so glad I couldn't see that when we were
on
alive.
Facebook. And it saddens me because Filipinos, parang we were manipulated into this whole labeling system that you can't be critical thinkers. You're either with this candidate or not, which is not true. I feel Filipinos know when this issue's good, this person did a good job there, this issue's bad. So that's one thing. I do hope that for the 2022 elections, we see hope. That's what I want. And I recently watched, I want you guys to watch this. I downloaded it on Apple TV. It's available on HBO Max also. It's the Obama 3-episode docu. So both of you, Jim and Sabi, have to watch it.
Okay. We're just,
And it is
yes.
so
Yes,
you have
ma'am.
to. And
Okay.
once you watch it, you will have a different appreciation for politics. I know you're both young, but I think Obama is an iconic character worldwide, wherein people look up to him because of the barriers he's broken, right? And when you see his story, I cried in
Oh.
of the two episodes because kinilabutan ako to the max. How faith is practical in Obama's life every day when he ran for politics, how he stuck to a certain vision, how he just stood up for his name,
Yeah.
which people were saying, you won't win, it's too Muslim. And he
Yeah.
said, no, I am going to be called Barack. So it starts from that kind of conviction that I want to see in our politicians. So from that to his vision of unity, to his vision of, I feel it's such a good story to tell. I mean, I'm watching it again, so it's that good.
We actually watched the Michelle Obama
Oh yes, that was good.
documentary. That was
If you
good.
were able to watch the Michelle Obama, then you need to watch
Okay.
Barack.
Okay.
Ano, the title of the docu is Obama.
Okay. Got it.
Okay.
Noted.
Obama.
It's
Yeah,
gonna go
yeah.
on our to watch list. Okay, go
Can
ahead.
I add
Go.
another question? Okay, so I guess we actually had VP Lenny on the pod, and we asked her. Well, I asked her, sabi ko, VP, like, hindi ko maintindihan how humanity can be sapped out of most of our leaders that have hurt us, di ba? Na parang, do they not drive cars? Do they not, do they not have eyes?
Yes.
So I guess I was trying to ask like about the corruption of soul, the human soul, and
Very good.
and I just wanted to ask you because you've talked to a lot of corrupted souls. No, I mean, I just wanted to ask, like, what do you think that there really is a point in time that there really is the that the fine line between I'm doing this, therefore it's okay. Like for example, I'm gonna steal X amount of money, but don't worry, I'm taking care of this province in blank. So, alam mo yun, so parang, I just wanted to ask, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
We were brought up that life is black and white, only to find out as we live through life that a lot of it is gray. So that's the one thing I realized is there is a black and white. People do know what's wrong and right. But then when you're enmeshed in a system, what happens with many people is, how do you survive? No, I'm not justifying for them, but I'm trying to let you make you think of why. Why does this happen? Because the system is built to be in such a way that hypothetically there's not enough protection, let's say, for the poor. So when they go to these politicians to ask for panlibing, panbinyag, pangtulong, they need to get money somewhere. So here's a politician, he has to source that out. Unlike, let's say, if the institutions are so strong, no one would be knocking at their door to ask for help,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So that's, you need to look first at things from a systemic point of view. And something simple people can understand is when people are sick. In Western countries, you go to a hospital. If you're a citizen, then it's free. You won't go to your congressman and ask, oh, can you please give me money? I'm going to be going to this hospital. It's non-existent in Western countries. But the reason it exists here is because they will be charged in a hospital. There is no medicine in a hospital. They still need to buy this after, let's say, the free consult or what have you. So you have that gap, that systemic gap. So that's one. Now, there's that problem, but then there's also conscious, premeditated plunder or committing crimes really of stealing from the national coffers. It exists and it is true. Why is that prevalent or why does it happen? Because nobody is hanged for it. Nobody is really punished for it. People who steal big get away with it. When will you stop stealing big? If you know that when you steal big, you will not see a day out of jail. But in our country, people are pardoned. People that still steal big aren't in jail for like 10, 20 years. It's the BIR officer, let's say, who stole 50,000 pesos in the office, who's been convicted, right?
Yeah.
Who's in jail.
Yeah.
But you're not seeing those who are closing big contracts, overprice this, overprice that. You know, the kickback is in the hundreds of millions. We have not yet in our country
Yeah.
seen, by example, someone who was honestly penalized and punished that it was so painful that you could not bear to do it. You get my point?
Yeah. And if they are thrown in jail, they're like treated like a VIP with
You're
aircon
treated
and
like a VIP, you're different. So, which is why the argument for death penalty at some point came up, right? But of course, no politician would want it on plunder. Because, hello,
they would
right?
Yeah.
But I'm trying to say accountability is everything, genuine accountability. And I feel that's what's lacking in our country. And I think culture plays a big role in this. Filipinos are quite forgiving. And when they say that as a joke, it's actually true.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you stand for like this is like a I don't know how, if it's okay to ask you this question. I mean, feel free to answer or not. But
Yeah.
if kumare kayo as a person, as a human being, as Karen Davila, you have your influence, and kumare you really, let's say you really believe in someone, but then you are also a journalist and you're told na hey, you have to keep impartial and you really can't naman, parang you're told not to campaign for someone or something. What do you do about that, Miss Karen? Like what how do you feel about that?
I'm just answering my Facebook fans. One sec. Okay. My family on Facebook. Um, well, number one, as a journalist, I can't endorse. But I think that the word a journalist should be neutral, should be objective, is misunderstood in the context in the Philippines. Journalists are not stenographers. We don't just type out or write what people say and take them literally. There's a very good meme. It's quite simplistic. It's a quote, but it's the essence of journalism. When someone tells you it's raining, it's your effing job to look out the window and check if it really is. That's it. That's what journalism is.
That is
right?
true.
It's simple. If someone tells you, "Hey, guess what? It's raining," you're not gonna say, "Oh, I see." So, many times as human beings, of course, we end up agreeing, right? So it takes discipline and effort, really, to practice journalism every single second and moment, because that's what it takes. When one thing is said, you check. Okay, oh yes, it's raining outside, or whatever. So there are politicians I believe in, yes, but I would not campaign for them. But I do believe, objectively speaking, that you can talk about good qualities of certain people. I think that's quite fair. So,
And you're just
there
presenting
are,
facts, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like Shell Diokno, for example, I think this is a no argument for anybody, regardless of who you support. Is Shell Diokno is a human rights lawyer. He defends the poor. So how could you go wrong with a man like that? Right?
Yes. Yes. I
Yeah,
love
so
Jojo.
I'm not endorsing him. I'm not, guys. I can't endorse anyone, but I'm saying there are people who are the obvious, and then there are people, of course, who some people you'd be cynical with, but then you're like battling in your mind. "Ah, pwede na to, pwede na to." This election is like what we have in the U.S. when they wanted Trump out of office, and I'm not saying that that's what I want here. I'm just being, I'm telling you a story. Is the campaign they had is vote like your life depended on it. So I think you have many youth groups that are, in a way, that have the same theme.
And actually, I just wanted to say also that this past year, we've really dedicated our podcast in educating and communicating in a language that we know our audience can accept, but it we've found it that it's our responsibility to let's level up our game and level up the communication that we're because I feel like our biggest opponent in this whole thing is are the echo chambers that are being created.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
like as you mentioned before, it was ABS, GMA. This is my source of news at more in the morning and at night. Now person A completely has his own echo chamber and his beliefs is being created by this echo chamber.
This is just like Facebook group
So
or
I guess I wanted to ask for my last question. I wanted to ask like what would be your advice to content creators because obviously
standard
you are a
I'm not.
as
I just started YouTube like
Premier.
5 months ago.
uh,
No.
I mean because you've lived a life of professional integrity and uh, I think while we do live in a new world where there are a bunch of content creators, you can start a podcast today, you can start a YouTube whatever today and have a following. I guess I wanted to get your like advice to people
Yeah.
who are creating their content. Now, how do you instill some sense of discipline and as an action against
misinformation.
misinformation? Yeah.
Well, technically, there are two things in your question. Is number one is in effect, no, is how do you put more purpose in a way with your content creation, and next is how do you battle misinformation. So there are two aspects to that, and I want to make it not just about content creation, but about your life. And this is something I went through recently because, guys, I mean, I'm guessing your listeners are in their 20s. Are they usually,
Yes.
Jim and Sab?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So, one, in your 20s, remember that failure is not an option. I mean, people often say that, yeah, let yourself fail. You don't have to let yourself fail. You will fail, guys. I mean, it's not because you want to, but that's what life is. You're just built to fail and succeed and fail and succeed. So that's one. You don't even have to practice that. Tell yourself, oh, please, it will happen. Okay. Right? But when I say failure is not an option, what do I mean with that in my own life? It means you can't stop. You can't stop. Putting it to life is a marathon, is at each and every age in your life or a phase, maybe in your 20s to 30s. I was there. Your career building and also proving yourself, building yourself. When you hit your 40s, probably you're building a nest egg, so to speak. You're saving money. You want to make sure, you're not as strong as you were in your 20s. Physically, that you're still strong, but you need to save more. That's how it hits. Make the right investments. Some people are doing it now younger, but I'm just giving you something basic. And then when you hit your 50s, which is me, I'm 50 years old, is you realize 2/3 of your life is over. And that's factually, it's not even emotionally. So you're starting to do the math that, hey, I need to make the last 1/3 of my life really matter, really big, all right, in your own definition. So the answer to everything I've told you is this: know your why. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Why? Why am I doing a podcast? Why am I doing YouTube? Why am I getting into this new business? Why am I doing this story? Why am I interviewing this person? Why am I still in this job? We forget the why. And it's understandable because life takes over. And life will tell you, you need to pay the rent. You need to work. You're the provider. You're a young father. Who cares if you love your job? You need to bring home the bacon. So when life takes over, we forget our why and we're trying to survive. But when you're able to answer your why, it's when you thrive. I thrive, I believe, in the most difficult of circumstances, me personally, because I know why I'm a broadcast journalist.
And why is that?
And you will get, why am I wanted to, honestly, and first it'll sound cliche. So I wanted to make a difference in the world. And
Oh.
I believe in communicating, which God gave me as at least a strength in articulating my thoughts. I loved writing, is I can communicate well. Then it moves to communicate truth. And it
Yes.
moves then to what are your no's? Meaning, no, when you start your job, people always culturally say yes, but you don't think of what's a no for me. So I won't take PR money, that's a no. I won't get paid for a political interview, that's a no. So you need to, and the no's come in because you know your why. Why
Yes.
am I here? So, like your podcast, for example, and we get lost along the way because some things will rate, some things people are asking for you to do. You have to do it, do this person. And you're torn, right? Jim and Sab, you're like,
Yes.
oh, we have to interview this person because, oh, this person is like, wow, we're going to be number one. Pero nagmumura palagi, for example.
Uy, si Jim yun.
All right?
Joke
Also,
lang.
I mean, I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying, you know,
Yeah.
then you need to go back to, okay, why?
Yeah.
If you can answer it, then go for it.
Well, we had you on
I
the
think
show
that's
because
the
we
key to
want to be.
success.
We had you on the show because we want to be number one. So, joke lang.
Thanks. No. No. God's grace na lang yan. Basta people are inspired with us. Okay na.
About your thing about misinformation. Oh, does that answer? Is that included in your answer, na Miss Karen?
I think in the past, it was gatekeepers like terrestrial networks or institutional media that would be the gatekeepers of information and vet information. But because, as I've said, information is so democratized today with Facebook. It's Facebook really that opened the doors. Is you wonder who's responsible. So Facebook just acted recently on it when it affected them with Trump, and that's when they decided to get companies or organizations who would vet. When it didn't affect them in the beginning, they didn't care, right?
Yeah.
Mark Zuckerberg said, it's like free speech until it started to hit close to home because it started to affect their elections.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, who is responsible for misinformation? All of us. All of us. Social media is much bigger now than the institutional media. You know, social media is bigger than the Inquirer. Social media is bigger than ABS-CBN as an institution because every single Filipino is a platform now in him or herself. Before, it was media who would say, Karen Davila, yan, pwede ka mag-radio show. Pwede ka magka-show. Not anymore. Anybody can wake up and say, look, I'm gonna have a show.
Are you saying
Right?
it's a no? Are you that you're not saying it's a
So,
bad thing, but it
it's
could
not a
be
bad
dangerous?
thing, but no, the word is, it is what it is. It's the world we live in today. It's just like in the beginning, there was no television. When television was invented, it was a shock, right? So you had to adjust to it. So now, with social media being this powerful, we as human beings and the platform itself, platforms need to adjust what they believed in before was, I'll take my hands off. I'll give you a good example. YouTube is now taking down accounts that
Yes.
are anti-vaccination.
No,
Yeah.
I saw.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the past, YouTube wouldn't care what content you put out because they felt it's your channel.
Yeah.
So you need to allow the world in a way, because you see the effects of this new medium. Well, not new to some people, but it's clearly not new to you. Is then that's when the rules start to change along the way.
We're figuring
Right?
it out.
While you're figuring it out through experience. For example, in media, why is it that, it is a no-no to interview terrorists? Why? In the past, when there were no rules, when it was such a, the word is not a new concept, but when it was not yet deliberated on, reporters would try and be first interviewing a terrorist, right? Have them on air, on radio. I remember I was in GMA 7 and, you know, there was a scoop we had and there was a terrorist on air. But then now, I mean, as the years went by, you realize no, you don't give them the platform. So I'm trying to say that it's not a question of wrong or right. It's determined many additional things through time. Of course, there's the basic of what's wrong and right, and then things change. For example, suicide. In the past, maybe put it to 40 years ago, it would not have a label that this content contains suicide, or the discussion of suicide has to be a certain way as to not encourage or showing videos of people committing it. But in the past, maybe put it 50 years back with broadcast, things like this were not, right,
Yes.
discussed, or
Yes.
even mental health. There's
Yes.
such an awareness today. Put it 50 years ago, you'd have older people saying, ano ba yan? Anong mental health?
Yeah.
Depressed ka lang eh.
Yes.
Wala yan, di yan totoo. You get the point.
Yeah.
Yes.
So things change through time, and hopefully it's to make us all better people.
Yes. Well, definitely, I think that's true. We are all still learning. And we learned so much from you, Miss
Yeah.
Karen.
Thank
Oh my
you.
gosh, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yes.
This is like a milestone for us. And before we let you leave, I did see that you have been very vocal on Twitter. And I just wanted to ask you, our last question, our final question would be, what kind of leader do you think we need right now?
I think number one is we need a leader. There are many kinds of leaders that we need, of course. But if you ask me, you need a leader, number one, who really loves to serve. Let's start with that. There are many candidates who are popular, but do they want to serve you? Service is the noblest profession one can have. The joy is in the service. One thing Obama said is the prize is in the work. So the reward is in the service. The reward is in the work. And that's number one. Number two, I would want a leader, given what our country is facing today, other than the basics of a leader with integrity, a leader who's God-fearing and capable, but a leader that's decisive, and yet I would have to say a builder, I think we lack that. We often, every time there's a presidential shift, we go back instead of moving forward.
Yeah, yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. I'd like a leader that would really think and feel for people first,
That's
and is able to translate it into genuine action.
That's a great answer. Well, thank
Yeah.
you, Miss Karen, because you are the best server because you are
God, no.
always you continue to
No,
be
no, no.
in the service of
And
the
that's
Filipino.
that's why Miss Karen Davila is filing
for her candidacy.
Haha, no way.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
But before we go, I just like to take the opportunity, first of all, just to let your listeners and viewers know that you only have one life. That's number one. If there's one thing COVID taught us is you can't waste the one life that's a gift that has been given to you. And if you ask yourself, what am I doing? Your ultimate purpose really is to live your best life that glorifies the Lord. There's no other way around it. And I feel that's the most meaningful life you can have.
Oh, that's so nice. That's a beautiful way to end this episode. Okay. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.